I have the craziest manifestation story for you guys that I want to explain. This is all about my self-concept and how the most unbelievable experience happened to me that proves how you can also develop your self-concept and get everything you want. Hey guys, welcome to another video. Hello to new viewers who probably clicked on this, curiosity-driven video and thumbnail, something a bit more interesting, so probably quite a few new viewers. Welcome. I'm Alexa, manifestation coach, and we are talking about self-concept, how you can develop amazing self-concept, which I think is sometimes underrated, just in terms of being confident, happy, feeling successful, and therefore being successful in life, because who doesn't want to feel self-love, confidence, and security in their own identity? So that's what I'm going to help you guys work on, improve, develop even more in today's video. I'm going to start with my own experience, a real lived experience of how I applied self-concept work in the most simple, easy way you could possibly imagine, and how it proves that manifestation can work very, very quickly and powerfully. So do keep watching to hear my crazy story. And I think I have mentioned it in past videos, but I'll explain it all in just a moment. Before we jump into that, I'm going to put on screen all my special offers, one-to-one opportunities that you can get with coaching, becoming an LOA coaching darling, because you get tons of exclusive content and extras if you join. I'm about to do a special challenge for members, so you do want to be part of that. And yeah, everything is linked below. The hype button is there if you'd like to support the video and my channel. And now let's start the video. So I mentioned how I have spoken about this story. If you guys are like OG subscribers, or you've seen my older videos, I don't remember which exact video it's on, but it was tied into self-concept, and I talked about some of the things I've personally manifested. And this was a story relating to a self-concept affirmation, which someone reflected back to me in the most unbelievable, unexpected way. It was the one affirmation that I did not expect to see, and I will post some pictures here, keeping the other person's identity private because it's not someone I know, and I don't feature other people in my videos. So I will just cover this person's face, but I do have pictures of it, and this person requested the photos, spoiler alert. So this is a development of the story and more in-depth version to explain to you guys how I actually did this. So this was around 2020, I think, a long time ago during lockdown, and I had just kind of really gotten into law of attraction, law of assumption, manifesting, and using affirmations. I was kind of new to it still at that point, and I just copied and pasted a whole list of them. And towards the bottom of that list, one that I just got from this website was, I'm a work of art. And that was one that was obviously meaningless to me. It was a bit more abstract, and I didn't really know how in reality that would translate, right? In practice out of theory. I've done a TikTok on this as well, and basically I would read it multiple times, sometimes multiple times a day or once a day. And I did that for a short period, no more than maybe a week, or maybe reading it maximum once a day. And I would just read through this list in my mind and not do much else with it. It obviously wasn't a priority. I wasn't implementing a really strong affirmation routine, and that was one that I already assumed, what is this? Like, this is random. Okay, I'll say it. Like, that was one from the list that didn't make practical sense to me. And then this was maybe a couple weeks later. Shopping centers and public venues and everything were opening up. So I went with a friend to a shopping center in London. And as we were walking down this main promenade area, a man kind of is looking at me, staring at me, and stops us. And he comes up to us, and I can see he's really like staring at me, not in a very creepy way, but it is slightly odd. So yeah, he comes up and starts talking to us, starts commenting on my eyes, and saying, oh my God, he had an American accent. He said, I'm from the States, and, I really like something about my eyes, and like, I really just want pictures with you. I don't know what he was doing. I thought he might be hitting on me, because everything he was saying was a little bit odd and out of the blue, and saying, his phone isn't charged. Can I take photos of us on my phone? And luckily I was there with a friend, so it wasn't like a scary experience, but I was like, this is very odd. Why would I have photos of us on my phone, like you're a stranger? And I'll start popping things on screen. And he said, oh my gosh, I have to get photos with you, just like really like taken aback by me. And then he kept looking at me, and so he's eventually commented about my eyes being like mesmerizing, or like, oh my gosh, stare into my eyes, look into my eyes, wow, oh my gosh, your eyes. Like, he was just making so many comments and acting like I don't know, this like really rare person. And me and my friend were kind of like laughing and finding it weird, but we went along with it. And, you know, he was being nice. He wasn't saying anything bad. And then at the end, he was telling me, you know, you're the Mona Lisa. You are the Mona Lisa. He kept saying that multiple times to me. And at the time, I didn't clock it. I didn't realize. But that is obviously my literal manifestation, my literal affirmation. I was saying I'm a work of art. Like, in my mind, I wasn't focusing on it. I didn't really care if anything came from it. So I had very little mental resistance. That was the key element. I kind of laughed at it, brushed it off and didn't think about it. And I obviously didn't think, you know, I'm ugly, I'm undesirable. I didn't have opposing thoughts. So I think all of that combined is a big part of why this happened to manifest. There was no resistance. It was fun, lighthearted, no overthinking, despite me literally not building up an assumption that actually supports it. Like I said, I genuinely thought that's one from the list. Yeah, probably nothing will come from it, but let's just read through it because someone recommended it on a website and I'm new to affirming. So you'll see from the photos a little bit, but he was staring at me. The photos themselves are really funny. That's why I kept them on my phone. I have to show my friend again at some point. But the moral there is lower your resistance, or start with something smaller or something that's fun, lighthearted, that you're not going to overthink. Even if you do, you can apply a lot of repetition with this approach regardless. And the next few sections are going to explain how you guys can manifest in depth your own amazing self-concept, have it reflected back to you as well. This has happened with lots of other ones, but this is the craziest one that I always tell people. This is proof of how manifesting works, because someone said to me the most unbelievable manifestation affirmation. He repeated it back to me. Everyone is you pushed out, meaning he is a version of me of what I assume and believe in my mind. My self-concept, I guess my subconscious took that in. There was some significance to it. It was somewhere in the back of my mind over those weeks, and then it happened to reflect. And I wasn't pushing for it. I wasn't trying to make it happen. It just came about. And then weeks later, I had a realization. Oh my gosh, when that guy came up to me, that was my affirmation. I'm a work of art. And never in my life, maybe if I'm not smiling, you know, people might joke about it like once or twice in my life, but it's abnormal for someone to tell me I'm the Mona Lisa or I'm like the Mona Lisa. Maybe I look a bit like her as well. That could be part of it. The point is, it's an amazing manifestation. So this is something that I guess a psychological term can be explained with of projective identification. That's the psychological term that explains how also people will literally, without realizing, subconsciously reflect back to us what identity we hold internally. Through the identity that we hold, that we carry ourselves with, that we are projecting through our energy, even the cadence of how you speak, the volume of how you speak. Do you come across as confident, secure in yourself? That is unconsciously showing others how to value and treat us. So I guess, yeah, projecting our identification essentially. So if you have certain core beliefs that are negative and, you know, negative assumptions, maybe, you know, unfortunately there might be experiences of bullying or just self-loathing, or like sometimes we honestly are our own worst enemies. We speak to ourselves the worst out of anyone. And that is sometimes natural, perhaps more with women than men, especially when it comes to appearance and judging our bodies. But you want to be careful about what core beliefs about your identity and yourself internally and your literal body you're creating and holding on to. Because if it's, you know, I'm unlovable, I'm undesirable, or anything negative, saying, you know, I'm ugly or things like that, that becomes your core identity. Because when you're younger, in teen years, and just, you know, unconsciously putting yourself down, you're not realizing it is building into an assumption, because the natural automated way of thinking, unless you teach yourself, it's not going to be. No, don't speak to yourself like that. I love me. I love myself. Look how good my body looks in that dress. Oh, I have really pretty eyes. I shouldn't speak to myself like that. I am really pretty and worthy. You know, it's not natural to just immediately switch to that, right? So you want to be careful of not holding on to core beliefs, of basically saying you're not valued, you're not worthy of these things, you're not worthy of being chosen. You want to make sure those are not your core beliefs, because subconsciously we are going to project outwards, and through the concept of everyone is you pushed out, by the assumptions and beliefs held in your mind, others are going to reflect back to you that. They're going to treat you according to what your beliefs are. So if you have lots of negative beliefs that show and rear their ugly heads in your thoughts on a regular basis, you're going to struggle potentially with an SP, with relationships, dating, friendships. The way people treat you probably isn't going to be really positive and what you ideally want if your own beliefs are not there. So the inner conversations that you want to have with yourself, repetition of affirmations. You can do what I did, just read through a list of lots. You can write down like 50 if you want about your appearance, your value, your character, your personality, your worthiness in life, everything. Tie it all up. And then that can be like more of a long-term project where on a regular basis, every day you're reading it or saying it out loud in the mirror, whatever you want to do. I do actually have a digital product on my coaching website that supports this as well, where I've written out a whole list of self-concept affirmations. So you can buy that, by the way, if you're interested. That has been on my website as a special offer. So you can write out a list. You can work on your own affirmations and essentially how you speak to yourself, that inner dialogue, the inner conversations that you have with yourself in the mirror, in your mind, when you're critiquing how you look or you're replaying events that you've experienced recently in life, whatever it is, make sure you're not holding on to some negative self-talk, because as you saw, like if you write down things that you don't have a lot of resistance to, something fun, like I have really gorgeous eyes, or, something that, there's not a high level of resistance, you're probably going to see other people reflect it back to you through a compliment, the way they treat you, the way they look at you. You want to let go of and be self-aware when negative talk comes up. So the goal is to let it go, replace it, completely flip it on its head into a positive opposite. Things like saying it's too difficult, nothing's changing in my 3D, this isn't showing up, especially if it's tied to an SP manifestation or dating or being valued by other people. You want to make sure you're not holding on to that and any negative self-talk, as I said, and step into your new identity. It's literally just up to you. Take the first step into that new identity. You don't have to shift everything around overnight. Just tell yourself, that is not who I am anymore. I am confident, I am secure, focusing on that new identity, building it up through your inner talk, inner conversations, just the way you think to yourself, repeating affirmations in the mirror, deciding which version of yourself you are, what is this new version that you're now stepping into in your new reality as your new just elevated self of being chosen, secure, valued, loved, confident, feeling safe. These are all things that tie into relationships and dating as well, by the way. If you can just tell yourself that, you don't need to fully believe or feel it, that will build up, but the confidence will be there. You will notice the way you literally view yourself will change, and therefore everyone is you pushed out. So basically behave and think and carry yourself as this new version. Fake it till you make it. You can do it, put your shoulders back, lift your head up, walk confidently into any room, even if internally, you're shaking in your boots and it's nerve-wracking going into a certain situation. Carry yourself as if you're that new version. And then obviously you want to replace those negative thoughts and negative self-talk by applying your mental diet. That's of course the key element, as I've been saying, just replacing and turning it all around into a positive. And you're going to be teaching your literal body and nervous system, this is safe, this is a familiar place for me to be, this feels, safe and natural. That's what you're doing. You're normalizing it internally, and that also helps lower resistance. And your subconscious mind, your neural pathways, everything is registering what's going on and what you're teaching yourself. Your entire body and mind are working in coherence, bringing it all in. Just tying in one more fact so I can definitely keep memorizing it and letting you guys know some of the really interesting brain chemistry that's going on is that your brain is creating a biochemical reaction for every thought that you have, which is then sending electrochemical signals across your body. And that is teaching your emotions what to feel, how to react. With every thought that you're having, your mind and your body are working in coherence. So basically deciding that is not my identity anymore. I'm letting go of the negative parts of self-concept. I don't view myself or speak to myself that way anymore, and turning it around into all these positive statements that reflect who you want to be. So that is today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this interesting little success story and example that I wanted to share with you guys. If you did, please do thumbs up, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and I'll see you next time.